Wednesday show. Wednesday show. Wednesday show. Hello, everybody. Hey, howdy, hey. Welcome to the practice round. Hello, hello. We got one hey, howdy, hey. Do we have a second hey, howdy, hey? Or just a hi, hello? Here we go. How's everyone doing? Are you guys doing good? Hopefully, everyone's doing well tonight. Hey. Hello, hello. Is everyone doing well? I hope everyone's doing well. Look at the Run Disney shirt. Isn't that the coolest shirt? Coco. We're gonna talk all about it as we go through the show here tonight. I know we have a lot of Coco fans who watch the show here. Try not to blow away from the coast. Yes, please stay safe. If anyone else is out there in the path of the hurricane, please stay safe. Hopefully, over the next hour here, we can kind of keep your mind off of any storm updates and all that other fun stuff. We'll just have some fun. We'll talk about Disney. We'll talk about the race weekend this past weekend, and all that other fun stuff. So if you guys want to join us, come join us. If you don't, well, I'm sorry. Please come back. But let's get this party started. We're going to start the 690th episode of the Wednesday show in 5, 4, 3, 2. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the 690th episode of the Wednesday show. Today is November 9th, 2022. And yeah, that's the right year. And I'm your host, as always, Brent Dodge. Hello. Today we're going to be doing a recap of the Wine and Dine half marathon that just happened this past weekend. Not just the marathon, but the whole weekend. We're going to talk about all three races. We're going to talk about the after parties. We're going to take a look at some of the pictures. And of course, we're also going to take a look at the medals as well. But of course, before we get to that, let's talk about our news for the week. First off, thank you everyone who's been joining us for our Saturday in the park. If you didn't already know, every single Saturday, except for this past Saturday, I apologize. I literally realized it at like 2 o'clock in the morning on Sunday during the after party. All of a sudden, I was like, oh my gosh, I forgot to do a broadcast yesterday. So make sure you join us every single Saturday. This Saturday at 1 o'clock Eastern Time, we will be broadcasting live from someplace found throughout the Walt Disney World Resort. Also, if you didn't know, there is a little hurricane, and I do say little, like it is a Category 1. It's one of the smaller hurricanes that's hit us in the past, well, as long as I've lived here. But we do have a hurricane that's heading over here at Walt Disney World right now. If you are here on vacation right now, I apologize because the parks did close up early tonight. And it was a shame. I stayed at Magic Kingdom until they closed because I want to be at Magic Kingdom all night long. All night long. But unfortunately, the parks will be closed until tomorrow. Right now, they are saying that the parks will be open up around 12 o'clock for Magic Kingdom, 1 o'clock for Animal Kingdom, and then 2 o'clock for Epcot and Studios. I think maybe Studios is 1 o'clock as well. But it's something around those times. So if you guys are here, don't worry. The parks will be open tomorrow. Those are the tentative times right now, and they might be going a little bit later, but hopefully that will kind of be the time that we will be having it. So we'll see. But I just want to go back to the parks. I have to go back to work tomorrow after being off for the last 8 days for the races. I'm really dreading it. Why didn't the hurricane come 1 day later so I could just be off? And of course, as always, tonight's show is sponsored by It's All About the Miles Travel. Make sure you stop by It's All About the MilesTravel.com for all of your Disney travel needs. All of their services are absolutely positively 100%ly free. So make sure you book with them for your next Disney vacation. Okay, let's get this party started because we have a lot to talk about. Now, if you guys have never joined us for one of our Run Disney episodes before, make sure you joined us in the past. Make sure if you guys have any questions about Run Disney, start throwing them in the questions below. I believe, I could be wrong, but I believe it's like 976.8 miles into my Run Disney journey. So somewhere around there. I will be hitting my 1,000th Run Disney mile, if my math is correct, in January during the marathon weekend, which is kind of an insane thing. So if you guys have any questions about Run Disney while we go through here, feel free to ask. I have done literally every single race, like pretty much every single race over the last 10 years, almost 10 years. So start throwing those questions in the comments as well. We're going to go through day by day. And if you guys have questions, like I said, just throw them in the chat room. Hey, Matt, how you doing? Hello, Alex. Howdy. In the middle of the hurricane, we're doing pretty well down here. Hopefully, yes, stay safe, everyone who's in the path of the hurricane. Hopefully, everyone out there is doing well. So let's get us started here, because what's the total weight count of all your medals? It's got to be close to, I don't even know. I'm guessing close to 100 pounds. I'm guessing 100 pounds. We might as well start off with this question, because this is actually a pre-race question. What's the trick to getting signed up for the 5K before it fills up? So for me, what I usually do is I'm usually on the Run Disney website about 15 minutes to 30 minutes before the actual website launches the thing. And usually I'm on my iPad. I'm usually on the computer, which is where you guys are right now. And I'm also usually on my phone as well, because that way I have 3 different chances of getting on there. And then I kind of look at which wait time is going to be the longest and the closest and blah, blah, blah. What I will also do is I usually have it so my phone is linked up to data. So I'm not going off of Wi-Fi, because sometimes that's faster. And usually about 9 times out of 10, that will be the first one that goes through. In addition to that, if you are going through and using any of those things, you want to make sure that you are signed onto your Run Disney account. It's the same account for your My Disney Experience account. You want to be signed onto that before the actual sign up starts. So what I do is I usually sign up on the Run Disney website. I make sure that I'm logged on there, and then I go onto the website as a separate page to have it so that way I'm opening up a brand new thing. Because what you're doing is, when you get through the entire queue, all of a sudden the first thing that they're going to do is have it so you sign into your account. And when you do that, you actually are going to drop about 100 to 200 spots, because people who are ahead of you, who've already logged on, they're going to have a better chance of getting into there than you will. So if you're not logged in right away, that's kind of the, yeah. Let's keep on going through the questions here, and then we'll kind of get into the weekend. What's the best race for beginners, and which race is best for character interaction? I always suggest the 5K is always going to be the best one for beginners. There's going to be lots of character interactions pretty much every single race. This year's 5K, there was not as many character spots as usual. The most character spots I've ever seen in a race, well, the most I've ever seen was the 5K over in Disneyland Paris. It was literally, I think we met 30 characters in less than 3.1 miles. It was insane how many characters we met during that race. But if you can't make it out to Paris for a 5K, I would say probably the marathon weekend has the most characters for the 5K. You're going to meet more characters during the 5K during marathon weekend, which is in January, than any of the other ones. There's going to be lots of characters no matter which race you do. If you do the longer courses, there are going to be more and more characters out there as well for you to meet. So for instance, for this weekend, I had 4 character spots during the 5K. I think I had 10 for the 10K, or maybe it was 8. It might have been 8. And then for the half marathon, I had like 12 or 13 or 14 or some ridiculous amount. I was talking to some people around me. They're like, "Oh yeah, I've stopped at 3 characters." I'm like, "You haven't stopped at all of them?" So, I'm kind of obsessed with doing the character stops. Which medal was your favorite from this week? We'll get to that as when we start doing our recap here. 5K is best for beginners. Character interactions are great on all races, but the most character interactions are on the half marathon day typically. There you go. Frank always runs the races with me. He's my running buddy. Although we started together twice this time, but we never finished. I mean, we never even got to the first mile marker together. Where should we park for the 5K? Dropping the kids' teens off for the race in January, and where do we pick them up? It's all going to be at Epcot for the 5K in January, so you can drop them off and pick them up at the same spot if you want to watch them actually finish the race. So you can actually go to Epcot, you can drop them off for the race, the 5K in January. It's going to be the same course that we actually did this past weekend. and you can actually watch them finish the race too, which is great. If you've never been to a Run Disney finish line, it's such a fun energy. It's so much fun. It is so much fun. Do you still have the iPad that the WED friends got you? I do. That's the one that I try to get signed up for. Okay, great tips. Yay. Okay. Let's go to the race recap. Keep on throwing the questions out there. I will answer any and all questions about Run Disney as we go through here. Like I said, I am obsessed with Run Disney. I've done lots of Run Disneys throughout the years. And yeah, so just start throwing them out. So I can't even wear a hat right. So for Run Disney on Thursdays, so for this weekend, as Friday was the 5K, Saturday was the 10K, and then Sunday was the half marathon. On Thursday, however, it is the Expo. So I went through and I did the Expo by myself. Frank was actually picking up one of his friends who did the races with us. And so they were doing the airport thing and all that and meeting up with other people. And then I was running around like a madman at the Expo. Usually at the Expo, I spend a lot of time at the Expo, and I usually spend a lot of money at the Expo. This time around, I did not spend much money at all. I bought some new shades. If you guys ever watch my videos on Instagram, I'm always wearing like the yellow shades. I love the shades. They're bright and happy, and you just see yellow. Yellow is my favorite color. So I like seeing the yellow on the outside. But my last pair broke a few weeks ago. So I was like, oh, that's what I have to buy at the Expo. And I also ran into one of my friends who I did the college program with. So her and I talked for about an hour while I was there. But the main two things that you pick up at the Expo is your race shirts, which I'm wearing right here, and then also your race bibs. So for the 5K, you get your own individual bib during this weekend. If you're doing the Dopey Challenge, it's the only time that the 5K bib is also the 10K bib. But this is the 5K bib. As you can see, it was Coco themed. Now, every single one of the races was themed around a different culture, along with the music and the food of the culture as well. So when we did this one here, this was all themed around Coco, along with South American heritage, with Coco being the main topic discussion there. The 10K was all themed around Asia. The half marathon was all themed around soul music and jazz and all that stuff and American culture. And then the 2-course challenge, which is when you do the 10K and the half marathon together, that was themed around, like Arabian music and culture and of course, Aladdin with Genie here. So if you are doing the 10K and the half marathon during these challenges, you have it so you go through and you get one bib for the challenge. So you wear this bib on the 10K day and on the half marathon day. If you guys look at the different things here, there's a letter at the top corner here. This actually indicates which corral you're going to start in. If you are a faster runner, you get put in the earlier corrals because it gives you more time to you're not getting stuck behind slow people. So for the 5K, I was in the A corral. You don't have to submit a time for the 5K. For the 10K, you do have to submit a time. I was an A for that one. And then for the half marathon, you submit a time. And I was a little bit slower in the half marathon, so I got the C corral for that one. So I started A and C. So AAC, the AA life like completely spoiled me because by the time C came around, I was like, why do all these character lines have so much more lines? It was kind of driving me crazy because I was so much further behind than I was the 2 previous days with all the different character lines. Where do they have the Run Disney Expo? So the Run Disney Expo is found over at ESPN Wide World of Sports. And it's actually in 3 different buildings over there. So one building is all merchandise. And what they did this year around was if you wanted to do the merchandise area, you could actually join a virtual queue for it on Thursday. If you went Friday, Saturday, or Sunday, or Friday and Saturday, you didn't have to go through and sign up for the app. But if you did it on Thursday, you had to sign up for the virtual queue, which I did. It was a very long line, which was fine by me because I wanted to sleep. So I woke up, I joined it, and then it was like another 3 or 4 hours before I could actually get in there. And then one of the buildings is just for your bid pickup, and then another building is your shirt pickup, and then all other merchandise that is not Disney owned. So there's different running brands out there. That's where I got my sunglasses. They're running sunglasses. And yeah, that way you can kind of go through and you can kind of enjoy the expo as well. Ooh, we might lose power. We might lose power. If we lose power, I apologize, but we might lose power. The lights across the street just flickered and went off. So my neighbors just lost power across the street. I still have power. That's crazy. Okay. And then Frank, even though Frank knows, what does perfect mean on the challenge bibs? So right here, you can see that it says perfect. This bib is actually different than all of the other bibs. There's probably like only 1% of the people who did the challenge have a perfect bib. The perfect bib means that I've been running this race every single year since the very first year that the race was around. So I have not been running the Wine and Dine half marathon since the very first year. However, I have been doing the 2-course challenge since the very first year. I think this was year 7. I'm almost positive this was year 7. But every single year, as long as you continue going through, if I miss one year, so like let's say I don't do it in 2023 and then in 2024 I want to do it, I no longer have that perfect status and I can never get that perfect status back. It means that you have done it every single year since the very first year. So it's a really cool thing. It's a very cool honor. I always wanted to have it, so I was perfect status, and I was 1 year off from Avengers, and they canceled it. I was 1 year off for Star Wars in Disneyland, they canceled it. And then I was 1 year off here at Star Wars, and they canceled it. So I was very, very close. I was 1 year off on Expedition Everest for way back in the day when they first started in 2008. I did 2008, 2009, 2010, 2011. And then in 2012, the 5th year, my friend Catherine decided to get married that day. Never forgave her. We still talk sometimes. No, and so, so we, So I'm perfect for this one, and my goal is to be perfect for the springtime surprise as well. How did you get so far in front of the corral on the first race? I got that far ahead in the first race and the second race. We'll get to that in just a second here, because right now we're going to start talking about race number 1. So race number 1 was the 5K. The 5K, Wine and Dine 5K. Like I said, it was a cocoa themed / South American themed. Now, so if you go to the corrals early enough, we went early enough, you can get at the very front of the corral. I highly recommend, if you want to have it so you are going somewhat fast, to have it so you do go as far up in the front of the corral as possible. For this time around, that's a good point too. Yeah, so being perfect means you get priority sign up in future Wine and Dine races. So in this case, the races. So yeah, for this one, we can sign up for the 2-course challenge the week before. However, on the week that registration opens up, I still had to sign up for the 5K. So I was still like panicking about not getting to the 5K. And also, by the way, this also is very exciting because this is the very first year ever that I did literally every single Run Disney race that you can possibly do. I did all the races here. I did the Castaway Key thing, race on Castaway Key, and I also did all 3 and earned the 4th medal for the virtual races this year too. So throughout the year 2022, I had a perfect status, which I was very, very excited about. Also very broke from too. But yeah, so for the 5K and 10K and actually the half marathon as well, we try to get as far up into the corrals as possible. My goal for this one, for the 5K, was if I can get out early enough, if I can be one of the first people out of the gate, then hopefully I can be the first person or one of the first people in line for the very first character, which actually we got a pretty funny story here. So we started the 5K, and look at that watch tan. Woo. I got my watch charging right now on my computer. So when we started the 5K, right before we got to the front, there was like a few people who cut me off. And also during that race, we had it so there was an Olympian there. She's a 4-time gold medalist. I can't think of her name right now. We also had the Walt Disney World ambassadors there. We also had Jeff Galloway and his wife and his granddaughter were all there. So all these people got to kind of go in front of us too. But we started off the race, and I kind of took off because I was like, I got to get to the first character, because how the race course works, there's always the same character, or not the same character, but there's always a character meet and greet at the same spot. And I was like, it's only like half a mile away. So if I can just kind of take off and get there, I'll have a few seconds to rest, meet the character, and take off to the next one, which is another like quarter of a mile away. So I was like, oh, this is going to be great. So they do the whole ready, set, go. I take off for the first like half mile. I'm probably one of the first 10 people in the entire race, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm doing so well. And I was like, okay, the character's coming up here pretty soon. And I got to where the character usually is. They didn't have the character there, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is awful. And I was like, okay, well, if I want to, there's another character meet and greet right around the corner, so I'll just keep on going to that one. I go around the corner, they didn't have a character meet and greet there either. And then, like, not even that far away was the 1 mile mark. I'm like, are you serious? There's not a character in the first mile? It was driving me crazy because I was going all out. I was so like, I'm going to win this entire thing. But sadly, I started to die down a little bit. And I was like, okay, I'm just going to kind of slow it down, take my time, and I can meet the characters as we go through and see the characters here. So we enter in. So you enter into Epcot backstage over by where Test Track is, and then you kind of go underneath Test Track, and then you go over around the corner by Mexico, where Donald and his sombrero usually does meet and greets. And I was thinking, oh, Donald might be there because it's all Coco themed, so maybe we'll have Donald and his sombrero there. He wasn't there. So we turned the corner, and then in Norway was actually our first character meet and greet, which was Olaf. There he is. Oh, Olaf. I like warm hugs. So going from Olaf, we went over and we had our first water stop. Actually, I think it might have been our only water stop. It was up in the American Pavilion. So we went past, obviously China, Italy, or Germany, Italy. And then we got to America, had our water stop. And then right after going through the water stop in Japan, we had our next character meet and greet, which was Duffy. If you remember, Duffy used to be a staple here at Epcot. I've not seen Duffy in years and years and years at Epcot, so it was really cool to kind of see Duffy again out there. And then Morocco didn't have anyone. And then over in France, we had Remy and Emile there as well. And then how the course goes is you go up to the International Gateway, you take a left, you actually exit the park, and then you go around the Skyliner, and then you enter through backstage at the park again over by the UK Pavilion. You take a left and you start going towards Canada. And right before there, lo and behold, there was Donald and his sombrero. So we did get to meet Donald and his sombrero, luckily. And then after you go through that part, you exit or you go finish around World Showcase. You go down the center part. You go past the Creation Shop, and then you take a right towards like Mission Space and Guardians of the Galaxy and Test Track. And then you go to the right in front of Guardians of the Galaxy, and you actually exit backstage between Mission Space, or I'm sorry, you go straight towards Mission Space, and then you take a right at Mission Space towards Mission Space and Test Track, and you actually go backstage over there, and then you take a left, and you're kind of running behind, Universe of Energy and all that other stuff, and then eventually you finish the race. So after we finished that race, we got our first medal of the weekend, which was the 5K. So it's a guitar, and then we have two more guitars, and the guitars actually swivel around. Now, what they've never done before on these medals is usually it's just kind of like, it's the medal, whatnot. First off, we have the 50th anniversary there. That's been going on for the last few times. But if you actually swivel this on the side, it actually says, I did it. On both guitars. I did it. 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 So overall, really cool medal. Love the Coco theme. And then after we finished that, we hopped in line because they had two character meet and greets that you've never been, like literally this is the first time ever they could go through and meet at Walt Disney World. You can meet them over in Disneyland, but this is the first time at Walt Disney World. So the first one we got in line for was Mirabelle from Encanto. I asked her if I said, I got $10. She said, oh, that's nice. And I said, can I buy Casita for $10? She said, no, Casita's my family. And then Miguel from Coco. So, yeah, so that was pretty cool. Yeah, so our pictures from the race uploaded to PhotoPass. So what they do is they go through here. Next, if you guys want to, you can actually download my PhotoPass pictures here. But what they'll do is they actually go off of this. So when they take your picture, they always make sure that you have your bib number showing. And if you're running past them and they don't see the bib number, then you just don't get the picture. But they do that, and then on the back of the bib, it actually tells you what the bib number is. So if you do like the 10K one, the code is 2022 for 2022. Wine 10K, and then these numbers right here, or there's 2022 wine HLF for half, and then those numbers right there. Or for the 5K, it's the same thing, except for it's wine D 5K, and then the numbers as well. So after, all the bibs always have your name on there as long as you register early enough. Now, if you don't register within like the first 5 minutes, you don't get it. So yeah, but they always have your bib or your name at the bottom of your bib, which I always appreciate because it's more of a personal touch. There was one time I was talking to someone, they're like, "Yeah, look at my pictures," and then I saw their bib and I was like, "That's not your name," unless you lied about. Maybe the person lied to me for years about what their name was, and then maybe that was their name. Okay. But yeah, that's the 5K one. I've been told this Miguel and the Guitars Glow in the Dark. I have not personally seen it yet because I always keep on forgetting to look when my lights are off. But I'll have to, maybe tonight, if I remember, I'll take a look. But overall, I think that's a really cool. I do like Coco a lot. I think Coco's a great movie. Very underrated, which is funny because a lot of people love Coco. So maybe it's not as underrated as I say it is. And then it's the guitar. Okay, so again, keep on throwing questions out there as we go through here. Let's go on to the 10K. So the 10K was more of a humid day than the 5K. The 5K, that was pretty easy day. It wasn't too bad. At least I didn't think it was too bad. But the 10K was a little bit hotter, and then the half marathon was like really hot. So the 10K actually started off the same spot. You're starting in the Epcot parking lot, and then instead of taking a right and going around the parking lot, this time you're going out and you're taking a left right away, and you run through the Epcot entrance, like the Auto Plaza area. So you run through that area, and right after you pass that way, I had my first character of the race. By the way, I did stop for every single character on the course except for 2 for the whole weekend. The only ones I did not see was Pluto the second time because I saw him on the 10K, which you'll see in a few seconds. And I didn't see Goofy because I met him the day before as well. But yeah, so the first character I met was Mulan. This one, like I said, this is themed around more of Asian cultures. It's celebrating Asian cultures, Asian music, Asian food. And the character for the medal was Raya from Raya and the Last Dragon. And she's never out for characters. We'll see her in a little bit. Right after, almost immediately after Mulan, was Hyacinth Hippo from Fantasia, the Hippo, which I think is actually very, very funny. I've met her once before, and it's been years, so I had to stop and meet her. After that, you have Mile 1, and then you go down and you take a left, and you start going towards World Drive. World Drive is that main road that goes up and down in the center of Walt Disney World. And right after getting onto that road was our next character meet and greet, and I think this is right before Mile 2. But this is King Louie from the Jungle Book. If it focuses on him, his eyes he's kind of got crazy eyes there. Hey, I'm gonna get you. And he does say crazy in the thing. It's crazy. Here, we got some questions coming in here. Did you see anyone get swept? I've never seen anyone get swept because it's usually... So how it works is you have to maintain a 16-minute per mile pace. So the way that they do this pace, because this is one of the most confusing parts of it. Every time I talk to people, they're like, that it gets very confusing. But when you're doing the 16-minute mile pace, it's not for you unless you're the very last person to start the race. So the 16-minute mile pace starts when the last person crosses the starting line. So as soon as that person crosses the starting line, you have a 16-minute minute per mile pace from when that person starts. So if you start 32 minutes before them, in reality, you have a 2-mile buffer ahead of that person. So I have never seen anyone get swept. However, we will kind of talk about that a little bit more at the half marathon, because the half marathon, I was on the edge of getting swept. We'll get to it. Hold on tight. We got stories to tell. How many races have you done that have either been canceled completely or modified due to the weather? 2, and both of them are actually the Wine and Dine half marathon. Alex, you and I did one of them together. Which one was it? Was that the half that you and I did, where they cut the half marathon in half? We ran like 6 miles instead of the 13.1. And then there was another one. Oh, it was this last springtime surprise. It was supposed to be a 5K, and it ended up being like a 2 point, or it ended up being like, instead of 3 miles, it was like 3.1. It was like 2.4 or something like that. So yeah, it's been 2. And then I was almost signed up for the half marathon the 1 year, but I didn't because I signed up for the full marathon. That actually half marathon got canceled. Each day got hotter and more humid due to weather conditions increasing, as well as the races go longer each day as they are longer races each day. Do you recommend stopping for the characters even if the lines are crazy? It really comes down to you trusting yourself. If the lines are long and you don't feel comfortable as a runner, I highly recommend not stopping for the characters. I've done enough of these races that I know what my body's capable of. Like I know when it's time for me to stop meeting characters, which is never. No, I know when I have to draw the line, and there has been times where I'm like, okay, I gotta stop. I can skip this character. I've seen this character before in the parks or whatnot. I have to skip this character because I can't risk it. However, if you see a long line and you're not feeling great, skip the characters 100%. Frank and I will go through. Frank and I have done lots of characters, and he will skip a lot of the characters because sometimes he doesn't always goes through. But it really comes down to how comfortable you feel about running, and if it's your first race ever, I highly recommend stopping for at least one character. At least one. You don't have to stop for all of them, but I recommend if you see a character that you're like, oh, I really like this character, I have to stop for this character. Stop for the character. Like I 100%, I highly recommend doing that at least once because it's just a great opportunity. It's just such a cool way to accomplish what you're doing. But if you are not comfortable with your pace, if you're not really sure how you're doing, if you feel like you might be further in the back, then I would say no. Like if you're not 100% positive that you can take the time to stop for those characters, don't stop for those characters. And I will risk it. When we get to the half marathon, we'll kind of talk about my risk this weekend because I took some risks this weekend that even during me taking those risks, I was like, is this a good idea? And it paid off for me, but it might not pay off for everyone else. And that's just because I know my pace and I know how fast I can go. But I also I know how my body can handle the half marathon, if that makes sense. We'll get into it more when we get to the half marathon here. Brent always recommends stopping for the characters, but it depends on your pace. I'm slow, so I get a bit scared for the character lines if the lines are too long for any given characters. Yes, Alex was. I would be terrified of the old balloon ladies with red balloons. If you are swept, you get your medals. Yes, so you get your medal for that race, but if you're doing a challenge, you don't get the challenge medal. So if you're doing the 2-course challenge like we did, and it's the half marathon and you get swept, you'll get your half marathon medal, but they won't give you the challenge medal. So it's kind of a bummer, but at the same time, it does kind of make sense because you finished part of it, but you didn't finish all of it. So they'll kind of go through that. Okay, so continuing on with our 10K, keep throwing the questions in the thing too. I'm loving the questions. Shortly after that, I met Pluto. You can't see it in the picture, but well, you can kind of see it right next to my arm here. I don't even see where my right here. You can see Mickey's ear. It was the Mickey Mouse Club logo is right behind him, which I thought was really cool. But there's Pluto. And then right before you started to do like the overpass turn, I think this was right at mile 3, was Mickey. Like I said, this entire race was themed around Asian culture, celebrating Asian cuisine and music and everything else like that. So here we have Mickey in like an Asian garb, which I thought was really cool. Look at it. Isn't that cool? It's got like the little hat with the characters on there. I thought that was really cool. This is a outfit that he actually wears over in Shanghai. So I thought that was really cool thing to do. So going up around the corner, then we had you go down. I always forget the name of the road, but the road that goes between the boardwalk and Hollywood Studios. You go down there, and then you enter into backstage of Hollywood Studios, right behind the Tower of Terror. Always a really cool thing. They have a water stop there, and then right before you entered backstage this time around, they had Donald Duck there doing meet and greets. Which the only thing that I was kind of disappointed by was he was wearing his sailor suit, which I haven't seen for a long time, but I was hoping that he would have his 50th anniversary suit instead. But that's fine. Not the end of the world. I still like meeting Donald anytime I can meet Donald. Also, if you're ever doing the character meet and greets and doing these races, I highly, highly, highly recommend don't take your time with the characters. Like they kind of push you and go through real quick. But what they'll do is they'll just really quickly like take your picture and then hand you your phone and go. There was one time where this guy was taking like 15 pictures, like, okay, now I need you to pose like this. I'm like, everyone was like yelling at the guys, like, go, we're gonna race here. So yeah. But yeah, there's Donald Duck. And then you entered backstage over by where was it? You entered over by Lightning McQueen's Racing Academy. You go past that, and then you go past Rock and Roller Coaster. You take a left, you go in front of Tower of Terror. You take a right and go down Sunset Boulevard. And then this one, you don't go all the way down Hollywood Boulevard. It's kind of, I enjoy this part of I enjoy the course, but it's not. Or no, you did go to Hollywood Boulevard, and then you take a left, but it's such a short time in studios. It's just kind of a disappointment because it's like, oh, I want to spend more time here. But for years and years and years, that was the only time that you actually really got in that area. But you take a left there, and then you go into, or you exit the park backstage behind Oscars, and then you go to the parking lot, and over by the Skyliner, they had our next character meet and greet, which is Mushu. I love Mushu. So I was very, very excited about seeing Mushu. And then you go on the little road that connects, or the little pathway that connects Studios and Epcot, and then you get to the boardwalk. Over by the boardwalk, they had Goofy, and Goofy was wearing his 50th anniversary outfit there. And then you run on the boardwalk itself, and then you enter into Epcot over by the Skyliner. So let's stop and we'll do some more questions here. Or actually, we're going to do the questions in just a few minutes because we're almost at the exit or end of this race here. You enter into Epcot again over by the UK Pavilion. You take a left right between the UK Pavilion and the Canada Pavilion. They had Chippendale there. And then at the end of the course is pretty much the same thing as the day before, where you go down the central path between Future World and World Showcase, and then you take a right. You go to the right of Mission Space. You exit the park between Mission Space and Test Track. You take a left, and then the finish line's right around the corner. At the exit, or at the end of this race, so because I was stopping for characters, I had Frank and our friend Chris. I had them hop in the character lines because at the end of the race, they have like 4 characters that are always set up. And I knew Raya was going to be one of them. You've never been able to meet her. So I had them. I was like, hey, get in line. And so they got in line for me because they finished because they didn't stop for creating characters. But there's Raya from Raya and the Last Dragon. All right, let's go to the questions in the comments here. Do they give you snacks? Yeah, so when you finish the race, they will give you a banana. They will also give you a box full of food, and then they'll also give you like pretty much as much Powerade and as much water as you want to get. And usually I usually get 2 Powerades and 1 water because I'll usually chug 1 Powerade on the walk to the next Powerade. And then I usually go through the Powerade and the water by the time I get home. So it's important to rehydrate. And then the food, they usually have like different things in there. Yeah, like this time it was like little pretzels, and they have this cheese sauce, which is amazing. And then just a bunch of like other stuff that I usually they have like chips. I love the chips. I love the chips and the cheese are like the best thing that they ever have. How do you get swept? So what they do is if you're not maintaining that pace of a 16-minute mile pace, what they'll do is they'll have it so there's going to be different checkpoints along the race. And if you're not above that area, or the balloon ladies, if you're not staying in that pace, what they'll do is there'll be these buses, and they'll actually have it so it's just like, sorry guys, like, unfortunately we have to get you on the bus. And so they will board you on these buses to bring you to the finish line. It's one of those things, though. I always say, like, I've never been swept. I'm terrified of being swept. But at the same time, if you start the race, you're doing a whole lot more than the people who are not starting the race. So even if you get swept, it's not like the worst thing in the world, because at least you tried. At least you went out there and you attempted to do something that a lot of people will never really try to do in their life. So, but when you finish the 10K, this is the medal for the 10K, 1.5 marathon 10K. On the backside, we have the 50, and then it's Raya from Raya and the Last Dragon. So if you actually open it up, then we get Sisu in the middle, and then I did it on the back part there. Again, really, really cool medal. Really, really like the medals this week. I really like the medals this week. I think they're actually all very neat medals. Okay, let's go to a few more questions here. Frank, I'd like to stop for Record Ralph if he is out, unless I am scared about my slow pace for that race. For humid days like this week, and my pace was 2 minutes slower per mile on the half as normal. Also, one time, side note, so one time, the first time that we were doing the Dopey Challenge, we saw Ralph out in the parking lot at Magic Kingdom. And I said, oh, we got to meet Ralph. Beforehand, we all said, if there's one character you can meet, who would it be? And we'll stop for that character. And Frank said, we'll meet Ralph. So we all get in line for Ralph. And then after a few seconds, everyone else starts freaking out. And they're like, oh, we can't do this. We can't do this. And they all left. And I was like, well, I'm going to wait for Ralph. So I met Ralph that day. Brent, which characters do you look forward to seeing at any given race? Scrooge McDuck is always number one. I would love at some point if they had Huey, Dewey, and Louie out. I think that'd be the greatest. Also, Bernard and Bianca from the Rescuers. Those are my 5 characters. Like, if I had 5 characters that I could meet, I would love to meet them. Are cheering squads only allowed in certain places? I always hear about a long, boring stretch on one of the courses that can be a mind breaker if your family friends allowed to stand in that spot to cheer. So there are designated areas where people can go cheer. So for like these races, it's mainly at the entrance and the exit of the park, and then like parts. So if you go to like the boardwalk, there's always like people cheering on the boardwalk. For this race, yeah, I would say the boardwalk and then the entrance of Disney's Hollywood Studios. And that's pretty much it for this race. If you do like the full marathon in January, there's so many different spots because the parks are open by the end of the race. So people can actually be inside the parks and cheering you on as well. And then there's some people who just look irritated because like they're like, you're ruining my day. I just want to get to Expedition Everest, and now you're running in front of me. So yeah. Who's your all-time favorite character you've met on a race over the past 10 years? Oh. I mean, I've met Scrooge. Scrooge is probably, yeah, I love Scrooge. Nebuna! Gee, oh, hi, how you doing? I saw lots of buses lined up. Do they bring you in? So if you're staying at one of the resorts, they will bring you in. But yeah, they'll bring you in for the resorts, and then and then they'll take you out as well. Can you explain the morning? Where do you park? How early do you have to get there? How can people come to cheer you on? So the morning works by the sun comes up. So we were waking up. I was waking up actually for the 5K, it was the first time ever in the history of all of my running career I could not get to sleep the night before. I literally slept 0 minutes for the night before. I just could not get to sleep. I lay down for about 5 hours, but I never actually fell asleep for a single second, and it drove me crazy. But usually I'm waking up around 2:30-ish, and then I usually take a shower because it just wakes me up to take a shower. So I usually take a shower in the morning and then head off. And I usually picked up Frank at around 3:15-ish, 3:30-ish, depending on the day. And we were getting into the parking lot by 3:45, 4 o'clock at the latest. And then the race starts at 5 all 3 days. So we would go through and we would get there, we'd use the restroom one last time, and then get into the corrals and try to get to the front of the corrals every single time. So if people want to cheer people on, so you can get there. It's the same thing. You have to be there before the race actually starts, because usually the entrance into Epcot is parking or is part of the race. So if you're not there before like 4:30 at the latest, usually they won't let you park. And then if it's things like the marathon weekend or the Princess Half Marathon weekend, for the half marathon and the full marathon for both race weekends, you actually run up to Magic Kingdom, so people can watch you at the starting line, and they can hop on the monorail, go up to Magic Kingdom, and watch you run down Main Street USA. Really cool experience, by the way. Just like, that's my favorite part of like any Run Disney race, is running down Main Street USA towards the castle, and you just have all these like strangers cheering you on. And I'm usually yelling at them like, "Come on, cheer louder," because it gets me going. So yeah, it's amazing, absolutely amazing. Having power issues down here, so I probably can't stay long. Leah, stay safe. Stay safe. Does it congested in certain spots in the race? And have you ever run into anyone on accident, or anyone run into you? Frank got hit by a wheelchair this week. There's you can also do racing wheelchairs, and he got hit during the downhill. He was running, and there was a guy who he couldn't stop, and he ran into Frank, and they both fell down, unfortunately. But they both got up and finished. So that's the plus side. I've had people run into me almost every single race, because the problem is I'm usually going not at a faster speed, but I'm usually not stopping as often as a lot of other people. And there's people who just stop, like they're running and they just stop, and they don't give you any warning. They're supposed to raise your hand and then like look behind you and move to the side to make sure that you're not like blocking anyone. But I've had several times where people stop. One time I pulled a muscle in Disneyland because a lady just like stopped right in front of me, and I like put my foot down so I didn't run into her, and I pulled a muscle on my leg. That was not a fun weekend, actually. But ironically, 2 days later, I got my PR and it's still my PR to this day, for the half marathon. But the 10K was awful because I could not run. It was the 5K that happened on, and then the 10K I did not feel good whatsoever either. But yeah, it gets very congested at some points, especially that run between Epcot and Studios is just awful, absolutely awful. What is the capacity cap for the races? So usually it's about 5,000 to 8,000 people who are doing the 5K. It's about 8,000 to 10,000 people doing the 10K. It's about 10 to 15,000 depending on the weekend for the half marathon. And then if you're doing the full marathon, it's anywhere between 15 to 25,000 people doing the full marathon as well. So it's a lot of people. Our friend Chris, who did it with us, he had never been to a Run Disney race, and he was telling me during the 5K or the 10K, him and I were waiting for it to start together, and he was like, "This is very well organized compared to any other race I've ever been to." I was like, "That's right." Okay, let's talk about the half marathon. So the half marathon, you start actually on the road in front of Epcot, and you run for about you're on the road for a while. No, so you run down, and then you kind of loop around, and you actually enter into Epcot. You run through Epcot around World Showcase, and then we'll get to it. But here we go. We're going to start off with our first mile. There was our first character meet and greet. We had Tiana and Louis the Alligator from Princess and the Frog. And then shortly after that, we had Lady Tremaine. If you watch my video, you can hear her say, "How unfortunate that you have my stepdaughter on your shirt," and I'm wearing my Princess Half Marathon shirt with Cinderella on it. I didn't even realize I was wearing that shirt until she pointed out. That was about mile one. You loop around the on-ramp, and then you actually enter into the Epcot parking lot. At the Epcot parking lot, that is where the Big Bad Wolf was. I absolutely love the Big Bad Wolf. And then after going through there, you actually go around the Epcot parking lot. Again, you enter into the park behind Test Track, and then a lot of the same stuff over and over. And then you enter over by Mexico. You go around, and then up in the France Pavilion, we had our next character, which was the Beast. And Beast had a very short line because he was not out when I got there. There was only like 7 people in line. I got there, and then all of a sudden the Beast started coming out, and then there's like 50 people behind me. So I was like very lucky with that one. Then you exited the park over by the UK and Canada Pavilion. And right after that, while you're backstage, we had Turk from Tarzan there. You can love Turk as well. And then you go along the boardwalk. And when I entered into studios, this is where, like I said, we're going to talk a little bit about the fear of getting swept. So I got in there, and if you watched my YouTube video, you can actually hear me say, "Oh, there's Mike and Sully." Oh, that's a long line. It was a very long line. And there's been times in the past where I see a line that's that long, and I think, it's not worth it. Like, I'll skip this line, and maybe I'll go to the next one. At this point, I had met every single character for the weekend, and the line was probably, I was estimating it was going to be like a 5-10 minute wait. And I was like, okay, 5-10 minutes, I can give up 5 to 10 minutes of the race. Usually I'm averaging anywhere between 9:30 to 11:30 for a mile, depending on how congested it is, how good I'm feeling, if there's water stops, not water stops, and if I'm not stopping for characters. So I was like, okay, if I can do a 9:30 minute mile, or even if I do a 10:30 minute mile and I'm waiting for 5 minutes, I'm still ahead of that 16 minute mile per pace. So I got in line, I waited for about 10 minutes. And it got me to our first characters inside of studios, which was Mike and Sully from Monsters, Inc. Now, this is where the trouble began, because I stopped for Mike and Sully, and I loved it. I absolutely loved it. Went down, you go down Hollywood Boulevard, and you take a left over by Keystone Clothiers, and you go around Echo Lake. By the way, also, I love this part of the course. I think it's such a fun part of the course. So you go around Echo Lake, and then over by the Mickey Shorts Theater, where you have Vacation Fun at, they had the Country Bears out. So at this point, I am texting one of my friends she started in the corrals behind me, 2 corrals behind me, and I'm letting her know about every single character that's along the way. And she goes, the character lines aren't that bad right now. She goes, however, I'm pretty close to the end. So she's like, I'm kind of worried. So she starts writing to me, and she's like, yeah, I'm getting in line for Mike and Sully right now. And I'm like, or no. She was like, I'm passing the Skylanders right now. So she was about 4 or 5 minutes away from Mike and Sully. I'm passing Mike and Sully, or the Skylanders right now. I'm going to go in line for Mike and Sully as long as the line's not too long. She goes, however, I know I'm getting really close to the end. And I'm sitting thinking, okay, wait, if she's close to the end, then I'm pretty close to the end. But I'm fine. Life is okay. After the Country Bears, literally not even like 30 yards away, was the next character meet and greet, which was the Cantina Band from Star Wars: A New Hope. I've only seen these guys at Star Wars weekends. I've never seen them at a race. I was like, I've got to get a picture with them. Well, it was another like 8-minute wait. And I was like, oh, am I killing myself right now or not? So I was debating about leaving the line, and I was like, no, you know what? I'm here. I'm going to have fun. Let's just do it. Because my mindset was, if the balloon ladies, the people who are at the back of the entire pack, it's a group of runners. They're actually not even the official timekeepers, but a group of runners that stay at the 16-minute mile pace from the starting line. I'm thinking, if the balloon ladies start to arrive, I know I can stay above their pace. So as long as they don't show up, I'm fine. So I meet them. I'm like, okay, I'll keep on going. So then you go past Star Tours and you go into Galaxy's Edge. You go around Galaxy's Edge. You don't go past the Millennium Falcon, which I always wish they would take you by the Millennium Falcon, but there's not really a good path. That's besides the point. And then you enter into Toy Story Land. Well, entrance of Toy Story Land was Bo Peep and Woody. I text my friend Lindsay. I said, Lindsay, just let you know, Bo Peep and Woody are at the entrance of Toy Story Land. She said, oh, great. She goes, I'm in line for Mike and Sully right now. And she goes, I can see the balloon ladies over by the Skyliner coming towards me. I'm like, okay, I'm fine. I've got plenty of time. And then you go through Toy Story Land, you exit, you take a left, and over by the Voyage of the Little Mermaid, you take a right, and then there's the longest character line I've ever seen. Ridiculously long. And it's Mickey and Minnie. And I'm like, yeah, I'll get in this line. So I get in line for Mickey and Minnie. There's Mickey and Minnie. So I write to my friend Lindsay again. I say, okay, Lindsay, just giving you a chance, just letting you know Mickey and Minnie are here in front of Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway. And she goes, okay. She goes, I'm with the balloon ladies right now. Or no, she was just ahead of the balloon ladies. I'm just ahead of the balloon ladies right now. She goes, but they're catching up. And I was like, okay, where are you at right now? And she's like, I'm passing. I just left the Country Bears. I said, okay. So I'm thinking, okay, she's probably about a quarter to half a mile behind me. And then I'm still waiting in line. 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 And then all of a sudden, the reality starts to creep into me. There's a chance that I might get swept this race. Like, if I keep on waiting for these characters, there is a very, very, very high chance that I could get swept if I keep on waiting in all these long lines. But in my mind, I was like, I'm fine. Maybe she sees the balloon ladies, but maybe they're further behind and she's just trying to, like, give me the warning. Like, okay, well, So then she sends me a message. I'm in Toy Story Land. I'm still in line for Mickey and Minnie. I'm thinking, okay, if balloon ladies are in the park right now, that means I'm not that far ahead as I think that I am. And this is not even mile 7. So we're not even halfway through this race yet. And I'm like, oh, am I risking this too much or not? And I'm like, you know what? I'm meeting Mickey and Minnie, at least, and they'll be my last characters possibly. So I meet Mickey and Minnie. By the way, I love Mickey and Minnie. Look at them and their little outfits there. I meet Mickey and Minnie, and then after you meet Mickey and Minnie, you start going down Hollywood Boulevard, and you turn to the left to get to Sunset Boulevard. But where you come into the park at Hollywood Boulevard, there was no one coming, which means the people who would sweep me are in the park. And I have not, for years, I have not been that close to the end of the race. And I'm like, oh, okay. There is a very real possibility that I could get swept during this race. So I started to kind of pick up my pace, and I exited Studios. You exited Studios by going past up to Tower of Terror, then you take a right and you go up towards Fantasmic, and then you exit behind Tower of Terror. And so you exit, and then mile 7 was right there, right at the exit, and you go down the road, and then you kind of go around a long ramp, and then you go down a ways, about maybe a quarter of a mile, and you turn around, and then you just go like on a long stretch of road for about a mile. So in my mind, I was still thinking I should be good. I haven't seen the last people yet, so I'm fine. And then I was thinking, oh, well, when I'm coming down the long stretch, maybe I'll see the last people. I saw the last. I saw the balloon ladies. And it was the first time in a long time, besides like a full marathon, I saw the balloon ladies another time when it was like a long like stretch like that where you could kind of see them way off in the distance. But I saw the balloon ladies and I was like, oh. So the next character was Pluto. I skipped Pluto because I had already met Pluto. So I was like, okay, we're fine not meeting Pluto because I met Pluto the day before. And then the next character was Ferb from Phineas and Ferb. So I met Ferb. It's not focusing. There you go. Met Ferb there. He's playing a guitar. And then there was a long stretch of really a lot of nothingness. But I started looking at my time, and luckily on my watch, because my watch keeps, I got like the running app on there. When I was running, all of a sudden it got to the point where I was running a 10, 15-minute mile. So I was like, okay, I'm putting more and more distance between me and the people behind me. And then you kind of go around another little like on-ramp. And when you get to the top of that on-ramp, you can look down, you can see about a mile down the road, and I couldn't see the last place people. So I felt more comfortable then. And because I felt more comfortable, I said, okay, I'm meeting every character from here on out. So the next character, this was right at mile 11. This was Clarabelle Cow and Horace Horsecollar. By the way, there was like a long stretch there on the road where there was like no characters, and it was kind of killing me. So I wish they would have had a little bit more characters, but that's okay. And then you went over the little overpass for Epcot, and then you entered into Epcot over by the bus loop behind the Seas with Nemo and Friends, and then you go past the Land Pavilion, again, backstage. Then you go behind Soarin' in the Land Pavilion, and then you go around Soarin', and then you enter over by Journey into Imagination. Over there, they had a statue of Figment. I met it. It was the statue, but I met it. And then you kind of go up to World Showcase, and you don't actually go into World Showcase. You just get to World Showcase. You take a left, and then you go down that stretch of World Showcase again. And then over by Mission Space this time around, they had the Genie of the Lamp. There we go. There's the Genie. Again, this was another like 10-minute wait. Altogether, I probably waited for at least an hour for all the characters. At least an hour for all the characters during this race. I waited a lot of time for characters. It was the slowest half marathon I've ever ran. It was 3 hours and 45 minutes. My personal best is 2 hours and 15 minutes. It was an hour and a half slower than what I'm have achieved in the past. But after that, you exit backstage and you manage to make your way to the finish line. For finishing the half marathon, you get. Wait, let me set it up the right way here first. Where's it at? Come on. Ah! You get this medal right here with Joe Gardner there from Soul in the middle. This one actually spins around too. Like you can actually kind of organize it the way you want. So on the back it says the world's most magical celebration. You can flip just the middle part there. You can flip just one of the side things. It's kind of cool how they did it. Because those like musical notes and stuff. So you can have like part musical note, and then you can have part blue. So that's what you get for doing the half marathon. And then for doing both the 10K and the half marathon, you get the 2-course challenge medal. This is the 2-course challenge medal. And then it actually opens up. It says, I did it, 19.3 miles. And then on the back side, if you open it up, it says, it says nothing. It says, only 2 wishes left. Like we pointed out earlier with the bib, it did say I'm perfect on there because I've done all the perfect things so far. So this is the actual ribbon that you get for completing the 2-course challenge. And then you also get a special bib if you've done every single one of them. So there it says perfect on there as well. So it's a yellow bib. And then after that, you kind of relax, you go back and sleep for a while. And then during the Wine and Dine half marathon, there's actually an after party that takes place over at Epcot. And during the after party, they have Guardians of the Galaxy, Soarin', Test Track, Frozen Ever After, and Ratatouille open. And they also have special meet and greet characters. They had Miguel from Coco. They had Mushu out. They had someone from Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. I never saw them out. I walked past it twice. Neither time did I see a character out there, but there was a line both times. They had Jiminy Cricket. They had Duffy Bear. They had Genie at one point when I walked by Morocco, and they also had Aladdin and Jasmine at one point, and they also had, what was the other? Oh, Remy and Emile from Ratatouille. But yeah, the after party is great. You can actually buy separate tickets to it. But yeah, overall, great party. I love the party. I think the party is actually a lot of fun. It's exhausting because you ran a half marathon earlier that day, and I napped for maybe like an hour and a half. So it was a long day. But yeah, overall, amazing. And a special map for the after party. Oh yeah. How long do they let you meet them? So for the characters, you really only have like a minute or two to actually go through and meet the characters. It's usually like, all right, go up, take a picture, and go. Go up, take a picture, and go. Any racer etiquette kit to share for first timers? Yeah. So if you're walking, stay to the right hand side. If you're running and then gonna walk, make sure you put your hand up. Look behind you to make sure that there's no one behind you, and then kind of make your way to the right-hand side as well. That's like the biggest racer etiquette that I would say that really ticks off people who've done a lot of the races. And yeah, I mean, don't push people. I had a lady who, you can actually kind of see her at the one video, the 10K video. I had a lady who literally like physically pushed me at the very start of the race. Like she like shoved me aside. I was like, what's going on here? And you can only see her for like a split second because I cut her out because I was like, this lady. But yeah, just, the big one is raise your hand, look behind you, and then kind of make your way to the right-hand side whenever you are doing that. Any other questions before we wrap this up here? Maybe, maybe not. You know what we're going to do? We're not going to check our viewer numbers. We're going to check our view numbers or subscribers. We're not going to check our subscriber numbers. We're going to check our view numbers because we are getting very, 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 I can't stress how many varies, very close to hitting our 900,000th view on my YouTube channel, which is kind of an insane amount of times to be going through. How's your No Way Jose? No Way Jose is always good. It was amazing No Way Jose. We always get a No Way Jose before. Usually it's before one of the races. This time we did not. Also, some tips. We had Ohana, but the night before the 10K, terrible idea. I love Ohana, but oh my gosh, I could taste the pot stickers the entire race. It was terrible. I love my No Way Jose. But that was it was painful. It was very, very painful. Any other questions here before we give you guys a mission? Oh no, that's not Mission Impossible. That's Mission Impossible. Everyone, please be safe for Hurricane Nicole. Yes, if you are in the path of Hurricane Nicole, please be safe. Are the parks open after the race, or is it too early? So for the 5K and 10K, it's usually a little too early. But for the half and full, they're usually like when I was on the half marathon, I almost hopped on Figment because it was open, and I was like, maybe I'll hop on this ride too. But at that point, I had already spent like most of my day meeting characters, and I was like, man. And Frank and our friend Chris had been waiting at the finish line already for hours. So I was like, yeah, that would kind of be like, the worst thing that I could do to these guys is they have it. So I'm like, oh, you guys continue to wait at the finish line. I'm going to go hop on Figment right now. And then I'm going to go meet Jeannie for an hour. And then I'll see you guys at the finish line. Okay, so we are currently at, you guys ready for this? This is kind of insane. Oh, here we go. We got more questions coming in. How much do the races cost? Way too much money. It's anywhere between like $100 to like $500, depending on if you're doing a single race or challenge or whatnot, and depends on the weekend. It depends on a lot of things. But yeah, it depends on the weekend. It depends on the race itself. It depends on if it's a challenge, if it's a 5K, if it's a 10K, if it's a half. Every race is really going to cost a little bit different amount than each, and it varies from weekend to weekend too, because some weekends are very, very high demand, like the marathon weekend and the Princess Half Marathon weekend are crazy how busy they are. And then the Wine and Dine is it's sold out. And then the the Springtime Surprise, the 10 miler is still available. That's the only race that's still available for this race season. So if you guys want to do 10 miles, you can still sign up for the Tower of Terror 10 miler. But that is the only race that is available from now until next Wine and Dine, a year from now. So yeah, if you want to do a race, make sure you jump on quickly, because if you don't, there is a pretty high chance that you won't get on. It is one of those, if you're not really paying attention to the actual, if you're not paying attention, like the actual like time that these things are going to go live, I usually don't. I usually remind Frank, and I usually don't really. If I know like a few friends that are doing it, I usually remind them like, hey, don't forget that tomorrow. But I know there's some people who I've seen post things online. They're like, hey, just giving you a heads up that they're like, just giving you a heads up that this race is going to be going live tomorrow. And I'm like, why would you tell all these people? Because all you're doing is taking away your opportunity for possibly going through and getting into this race. So it kind of, I don't know, it kind of baffles me that some people will just kind of, and then they complain that they didn't get in. Are there water stops? Yeah. So for the 5K, there's usually one water stop. For the 10K, there's two. And then for like the half, I think there was 6 or 7. And then Also during the half, there's a food stop too. So they'll give you little, like for this time, it was little jelly beans that give you energy. That was right before mile 7. And I took 2 bags and I ate both bags by the time the race was done because I needed energy. When is Disneyland doing races again? That will be in 2024. So not next year, but the year after that, we will start having Disneyland races again, which I'm extremely excited about. I cannot wait to go back out to Disneyland and do some races out there as well. Oh, wait. So here's my mission to you guys. We are less than 1,000 views away from hitting 900,000 views of all time on my YouTube channel. And there's a chance because the night actually goes until there's no 5K. Like getting distracted. There is no 5K availability right now for any of the races. Right now, the only race that's available until while this race, so the race season goes from November to April. So for this race season, there is none available. However, sometimes they do pop up from time to time. So just kind of keep on checking, and hopefully something will pop up for you at some point or another. They do randomly pop up every now and then. So you just kind of keep on checking every day, and there's a chance that maybe, just maybe, they'll be around. But yeah, so right now we are less than 1,000 views away. Wait. And how do I wait? Let me do this here. We're less than 1,000 views away. I know I just said like that 15 times. Less than 1,000 views away from 900,000 views. I've been waiting to I haven't really said anything about how close we were getting to 1 million for a while. We've gone up 400,000 views, almost 400,000 views we're 3 days shy of 3 days shy of 4 months. We hit 500,000 views on July 12th of this year, which is crazy because it took us 13 years to get 500,000 views. And now it's taken less than 4 months to hit 400,000 views. So if you want to help, you don't have to watch all of them, but I highly recommend it. There is a link that I just posted into the comments for both YouTube and Facebook. If you go on that and you hit play all, there's how many videos is it? It's 139 videos. It's not even going to take you 45 minutes to watch all 139 videos. Let's do the math here. That's my doing math voice. If we are 1,000 views away and we have 139 views, if 7.2 of you, let's say if 8 of you watch, click that playlist right now and put it on before the end of the day, we will hit 1,000 views. We'll hit 900,000 views by the end of the day. So please, if you want to help out at all, I would greatly appreciate it. It's going to give you some fun finds. It's going to give you some little details. It's going to give you lots of hidden Mickeys. It's going to give you lots of little character meet and greets, simply waving. Some of the videos are 5 seconds long. Some of them are up to a minute long, but most of them are about 15 to 30 seconds long, depending on the video. So make sure you check that out. But before we wrap up, as always, tonight's show is sponsored by It's All About the Mouse Travel. Make sure you stop by it'sallaboutthemousetravel.com for all of your Disney travel needs. All of their services are absolutely, positively, 100% free. So make sure you book with them for your next Disney vacation. I'd like to thank everyone out there for joining us once again this week. Please keep on spreading the word about the Wednesday show and from Screen to Theme, and invite everyone to join the group over on Facebook or over on YouTube as well. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. I hope you guys enjoyed. Hopefully, you learned a little bit about the Run Disney programs. We will be going back to our tournament next week, our bracket for figuring out what the best thing to watch on Disney Plus is. And then, of course, eventually we're going to be going back to another Run Disney week in about less than 2 months. About 2 months from right now, actually, we'll be doing the marathon weekend. So make sure you join us every single week. Keep spreading the word. As always, if you have not ordered your copies of A Closer Look or A Closer Look or A Closer Look yet, make sure you go visit the Shop Now buttons to order your books today. And I will, I can't ship them out tomorrow because there's a hurricane, but I'll ship them out as soon as I can. And as always, remember that anything can happen if you let it. Have a great week, everybody. And as Judy says, stay safe, Florida. Bye-bye. Goodbye now. Goodbye. Goodbye now. Goodbye now. Bye-bye. Are they gone? Are they gone? Oh, good. My cheeks are just killing me. I just can't.